shooting guns and drinking vodka.
Spring break in Russia.
And it's just like a dirt runway, and there's a crash plane like at the end of the runway.
Jeez.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Howdy, y'all. Welcome to Seager Storytime. We're your hosts, Mattson, Case, and Elliott, and we're the co-founders of Seager Company.
Live.
Clapped.
We're clapped in.
Did you watch
Clapped
Dane's
in.
episode or no?
Dane's?
Yeah.
I watched like 30 minutes of it.
Did you see your shout out part?
Yeah. I saw the highlight reel shout out,
Oh yeah.
but I don't know
Okay.
what the shout out was for.
It was. I think we were just shouting out everybody.
That's so funny.
Oh, we were talking about the video that you took of him with like the ice beard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that thing's
That
a
was sick.
trip.
Yeah.
It's like every winter it still goes viral. Like
Yeah, it
all
does.
over again on these like weird accounts that I've never heard of.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who's posting this and who's seeing it? But people love it. And that was from like 2016.
Jeez.
People
It's,
do
like,
love it.
super weird.
It's
I
a
remember the
standout
first time
video.
seeing that.
Yeah.
First time seeing that, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. His beard is just attracting all that ice.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And he already looks like an ice Viking.
Yeah, he does.
It's already
I know.
funny.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
just smiling so hard.
That was a really weird trip. Weirdest surf trip that I've been on probably.
What made it so weird?
Just like the route that we took. So we flew into Milwaukee, and Dane was talking to this like local surfer who surfed Lake Michigan, I think. And he was kind of like our guide. He was like telling us where the waves were going to be. And basically how it works is like the weather, the storm is like what creates the swell on the lake. But as soon as it shifts off the water, all that swell just instantly dissipates. And so he had thought like Lake Michigan was going to be the place to be. So we flew into Milwaukee, and we're like showing up in this airport, and like people are like, oh, are you guys going out to California to surf? And we're like, no, we're actually coming here to surf. And people are like tripping on that. And then the storm shifted north, so then we had to drive diagonal through Wisconsin up to Duluth, Minnesota. And so we were going through like cheese country. And it was
Wow.
just me and Dane in a car, and we're like staying the night in this like weird motel in Wisconsin. And I was like, where are we? Like, this is the weirdest trip of my life. And ended up in Duluth, which is this tiny little town. It's like super beautiful up there. And there's swell on Lake Superior. And there's a surf spot that's like an established place that people surf. And it was literally as crowded as Lowers, but like the
What?
waves were ankle high, like mush burgers.
What?
There was a guy in the water filming from the water. Everybody's frothing.
Oh my god,
And,
that sounds awesome.
Dane was like getting dropped in on, and I'm like trying to film this. I'm like, what am I shooting right now? It was like we came all this way, and it's like freezing cold water. It was like, I don't know, 30 degrees
Wild.
outside, and the water was like same temperature. And
Have you heard of this spot, Eli?
Yeah, that's where like
Okay.
Castle Glass is, and like what's that shop that we're in up there?
Oh,
We're in a
God.
Lake
Duluth shop.
Effect.
Lake
No,
Effect.
no, that's Milwaukee.
Oh.
are
We're
you
in a
from
Duluth.
up there?
I'm from
Oh,
Milwaukee.
we are in a Duluth.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah.
Back Alley or something?
Back alley.
Back
yeah.
Alley.
Yeah, that's like they all surf that spot.
Shout out Back Alley.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shout out.
Dude, it's crazy though, because like when you're flying over the lakes, it feels like you're flying over the ocean. Like they're so big.
Yeah.
And you can't
So
see the
wild.
shoreline in any direction.
Yeah.
And so we actually chased that storm across to the other side of the lake and ended up in this like weird little zone near Marquette. And a blizzard had come in that night. And Dane and I were in our rental car trying to follow this guy, and he was like our guide. And we lost him in the middle of the night, and we're trying to get to this other side of the shore by the next morning before, like, after the storm let up and like the swell arrived. But it meant we'd have to drive like straight through that storm. And so we lost this guy, and we're driving, and it's like 3 a.m. And then pretty soon it got to a point where there's so much snow on the road, you couldn't see where the road ends and like the nature begins. And so we're going like 5 miles an hour, and it's just howling wind. And we thought we're like behind this guy, and we had to get to our destination, and then we didn't have reception, and we're just getting so freaked out. And we actually made it to Marquette the next day. And the other dudes, it turns out they were like, we're not even gonna go try to do this. Like, it's too
They
gnarly.
bailed early on.
So they bailed, and we didn't know that.
Oh my god.
And so we ended up there by ourselves, and like
Oh
actually
my God.
scored surf, and it was like super fun beach break. And it's weird because like the shoreline there is like not beach, it's just like people's backyards up against the lake
Uh-huh.
with docks and stuff. And so we were like running through people's backyards, and like that time of year, it's a lot of vacation homes, so people
Oh, they're not there.
aren't there.
Yeah.
And so we're just like tracking across people's yards and found this like
Damn.
peaky little gravel bar, and it was really sick. It was really fun.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. So
Can we see a clip or something? I just want a visual.
Marquette.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't know.
was-
I don't know if it's like an established surf spot, but the guy was like, "Hey, this is kind of the zone you should check." So
Did you got good surf?
yeah, it was really fun.
Is
Yeah, it
there
was like
video?
punchy, like shoulder high beach break.
Do you have a video of it? Like, obviously you filmed it, right?
I did. I don't know if it's still up online, but Dane's beard, like his ice beard, was the thing that kind of came
Surpassed
out
it
of
all.
that.
Yeah.
And that was like on
That's
his
hilarious.
phone. Like I filmed the whole thing on my cinema camera, and like none of that really came to light. But
That's crazy how that happened.
yeah,
Is this it?
Oh, it's nice.
Like,
Cold.
yeah, it looks
That's
yeah, it
nice.
looks
Trying to
very
be
similar
nice
to
there.
that, but just imagine it completely white.
Jeez.
But it was like really fun beach break. It wasn't soft like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds so cool.
Does it ever get good in the summer, you think? Eli?
I think it probably gets
It's
like
warm
that.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah, like,
I've seen some really cool photos of it looking beautiful in the summer.
Really?
I would love to make it up there, like during the fall or like
Yeah.
when the leaves are turning.
Sounds
Yeah, for
amazing.
sure.
Yeah.
Have you always been into cold water surfing or just cold things? You always been into the cold? Where are you from? Are you from the
kinda.
cold?
you're from Germany.
Well, I was born in Germany.
Okay.
Actually?
The cold
yeah.
part or
Oh,
what?
what?
Yeah, I grew up in Germany till I was
Whoa.
11, and then moved out to
Wow.
San Diego in middle school.
What the
Damn,
heck?
military parents or something? Sounds
My
like
dad was a pastor. My parents
Oh.
were missionaries over there,
Okay.
and lived over there for like 15 years, and so I was born over there. And yeah, then we moved back this way, and like my whole dad's side of the family is super into mountaineering and climbing, and so they're always like traveling the world, like Himalayas, Andes. So I felt like that was kind of like part of our family DNA, and so I've always been drawn to like backpacking and mountains. And then started surfing here in high school when I got to San Diego.
What high school did you go to?
Rancho Buena Vista.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then went to Point Loma, and that really was like fed into my love of surfing. And then studied abroad in New Zealand for a semester
Whoa,
down on the
sick.
South Island, and that's where I kind of, I guess, just started to see the potential of surfing in like remote, cold places. Because like the school that I was at down there was on the edge of this national park called Catlins National Park, and it's just like a super wild, remote place, and it gets really cold, and it's rugged, and you can just spend your whole life exploring all the nooks and crannies down there.
Yeah.
So I was there like into the winter, and the last week I was there, it started snowing, and got good waves in the snow. And I was like, wow, it's crazy that this is like a thing. Like you can do it, and it's not that big of a deal. And just like the idea that there's all these waves out there that nobody's surfing intrigued me. So that was kind of like the kickoff for it, I guess. But
Jeez.
after that, it just like captured my imagination.
And that got you into like researching like cold water surfing?
Yeah. Well, I guess that was like one part of the puzzle, but like around that same time after I graduated college, Surfing Magazine had the Google Earth Challenge. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
remember that.
No.
Oh.
What?
So it was like they had a contest where Google Earth had just come out around that time, I think, and the contest was like, if you can find a world-class wave on Google Earth, then like, and if you win this prize, like we'll take you there and you can surf it. And we're
What?
gonna bring pros and
What?
document.
That is the craziest
Yeah.
thing I've ever. Wait, did you
Great
know
idea.
that?
Yeah. If
Yeah.
it
You knew that
was
whole
like,
thing?
Yeah, I knew that.
Did you try?
Yeah, I did try. My buddies and I, like,
No way.
I mean, we would just go look for waves and like Google Earth. We'd go to like
That's
the
insane.
coast of Africa and just try to kind of find waves. And
Why did they pick surfing? I feel like they could do anything.
Well, no, this was
This is
Surfing
Surfing
Magazine.
Magazine.
Oh,
Like
I
Evan
missed
Slater,
that part. I
think.
thought it was just straight Google. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that'd be
This is
really cool.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's also you can see like wave lines from
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 space.
Yeah.
So
But like I think
Wow.
Skeleton Bay was found that way.
yeah.
Oh,
maybe
really?
maybe not the first surfers, but that's how it became public knowledge.
Whoa.
Damn.
Yeah.
So did you submit
Gnarly.
a like?
I did, and none of them won. But I was like, oh, I bet everybody's gonna be looking at all these like warm water places. Like, I wonder if Alaska has anything. And so I started looking up there, and like
Diversify.
Aleutian Islands.
Yeah.
And I started seeing waves, and I was like, this is sick. I was just screenshotting them and showing them to my buddies.
Yeah.
And then my roommate was like, dude, you should like start a blog and just post this stuff. And I kind of felt like, I don't know, like I didn't have enough content to like keep a blog going, you know? But I did it, and I was a graphic design major in college, so I was like, oh, maybe I could design the identity and branding around this blog and this idea of Arctic surf.
What was the blog called?
Arctic Surf Blog.
Arctic
Yeah.
Surf.
You still run it? You still got it?
Yeah, it's not up anymore.
Ah.
No, it's just like an archive. But yeah, so I was like, okay, I'll just do it for fun, you know? And then I would post stuff, and the more I posted, the more psyched I would get. And it was kind of like, you know, when you're scrolling on Instagram and you're kind of like stuck in that loop, and you're like, boy, if I could go a little further, like maybe I'll see something cool.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that on Google Earth. Like maybe if I scroll a little further down the coast, I'll find something really sick. And so there's almost this like addictive quality to like searching. And so I spent hours doing that, and I kept posting stuff on that blog. And then a few months in, I got an email from Chris Burkhardt, and he had just come on at Surfer Magazine as like a staff photographer. And I knew who he was, like super famous guy, like loved his photography.
When was this? Well, like what year?
Like 2009, 2010.
Wow.
Yeah. And when I got that email, my first reaction was like, oh, this is my roommate's like playing a prank on me. Like there's no way this is real, you know? So I wrote him back this like tentative email like, oh, let me see if I can like check my schedule and see if I have time to like jump on a call with you, because I didn't want to like feed into the prank. And it turned out
hilarious.
it was real. And so I got on this call with him, and like he was like asking me all these questions, and I didn't know anything. Like I was just a grom like frothing, you know? But he's like, dude, we should like plan a trip to one of these places and pitch it to the magazine. And so I was like, all
That's
right,
crazy.
let's do it. And then so I helped pitch the first trip, and it was actually back to that place in New Zealand where I was living previously. And the magazine was like, all right, let's do it. Like, this is cool. Who's going to write the piece? And at that point, I didn't really have like a spot on the trip. I was just like helping plan it. And I was like, I'll write the piece, you know? And I was like, I haven't written anything since high school essays, you know, I have like 0 writing experience. And then there's like literally no qualification. They're just like, all right, cool, you're in.
Whoa,
Like,
that's nuts.
That's trippy.
You just
So-
gotta ask.
yeah. So yeah, that's kind of like how the first trip came together. And one of the surfers, Pete DeVries, on that trip had a camcorder, and he's filming parts for his intersection film, which was just kind of like a surf video contest at the time. And he's like, dude, do you think you could like grab some shots of me surfing? And I was like, sure. I don't have anything else I'm doing really. I'm just like taking notes, you know? So I filmed some clips and like ended up submitting it to the magazine, and they're like, cool, we'll like post this and pay you for it. And I was like, what? I can get paid to do this? Like, that's crazy. So that's how like the filmmaking side of it kind of got started. And then from there, I just kind of made it a goal to like every 6 months try to like pitch a new project, learn something new about filmmaking, and try to like expand the scope of like what I was doing.
Wow.
And
That's wild.
That is
and
wild.
I had a part-time job, or I had a job that I was working at the time, and I would take time off to do these trips like twice a year. And then it just kind of like snowballed, but it was like a long process. It was like probably 8 years before I like quit my job and fully went into filmmaking. So
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
congrats on that.
thanks.
So
yeah.
that was only like 5 or 6 years ago then?
Um,
Or how long ago was that?
that was probably 7 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now you've just been pursuing like making films full time for brands and for yourself?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's a trip because like all the projects that I did on the side were all just the ones that I would love to do, because I had my like other job that was paying the bills, and so I could just selectively choose like surf film projects that I wanted to do, and so I had that like running in parallel the whole time. So
Wild.
yeah.
Jeez.
So at what point did you realize, I guess it was during when you were working for Surfing Magazine, like at what point did you meet the right person where it's like, I'm going to keep doing this and push it?
There was never really a time where I was like, all right, like I'm all in. Like it felt so gradual. Like I was always thinking, is this like my full-time job? Is this like a career? Like I don't know, what is this, you know? And like now, like over the last few years, it feels like for sure it's what I do. But I've always had that like questioning, like, where is this headed? Like, is this real or not? Or is this kind of like a dream, you know? So yeah. And the weird thing is, like, I never like set out to do any of this. Like, I never tried to get into this as a job. I never tried to become a filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of just happened. And
Yeah.
and I just, every time an opportunity presented itself, I was like, all right, like, I'm just gonna go for it and try to figure this out, even though I don't know anything about how to do this. But for some reason, people are like trusting me with this. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's
I trip
so
out
wild.
about it. Yeah.
It's like a butterfly effect kind of story where
Yeah.
just like one thing happens and then it just keeps rolling down the hill, and now you're a professional videographer. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And I guess, yeah, just like taking the risk of saying yes and not really knowing where it's going to go or what the end goal is necessarily. But like a lot of those early projects, Chris and I were just like putting our own savings to make those trips happen. And then whatever would come of that, it's like you'd get paid a little bit from the magazine, but then whatever came in, it's like you just put that towards the next one.
Yeah.
And it was just a full side project. Like, none of it was intended to be a job for me. And so it kind of just snowballed that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's weird. Like, there's no like decisive intention behind it for me.
That's awesome though. It sounds like it was really just there's pure passion behind it, I guess. And
Yeah.
you kind of were smart with it, where you didn't just like jump in full cold turkey, you know what I mean? Kind of took your time and focused on this project and kept building it up. And we, at a smaller scale, we did the same thing. You know, we all had side jobs for the first few years that we just couldn't, you know, we didn't have money to live. Like, the business is what allowed it. We lived at the warehouse, you know, the business sustained it, you know?
Yeah.
But that same thing where it was like a gradual change, you know, of, okay, when are we going to quit these side jobs? And even that was
Yeah.
a big moment. I remember we're like, damn, so I don't have to go in somewhere anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like, that was weird.
But I won't make money.
That is
Yeah.
that pretty hard to coordinate for you guys, like all of you coming to that decision at the same time, or was that like a gradual
It was,
process?
I think it was gradual. I feel like we talked about it for a bit.
Yeah.
I don't remember
Yes,
the
it was.
exact moment.
Yeah, I remember, like, for me personally, I was bartending, which was mostly at night. And so I was making good money doing that too.
Yeah, he was all
But,
rich.
Yeah, like I was coming home with like $300 to $600 in my pocket every night, and just like, dude, I'm freaking loving this.
Yeah.
And
You bought a
then
Porsche back then? Remember that?
I didn't.
Crazy.
I didn't buy a
I
car.
was just kidding. I was
But
kidding.
it was just like,
He's more of a BMW guy, anyways.
it's not true either.
I was just kidding. I don't even know what that means.
So, anyways, I was just like living it up. Like, oh, I could work at Seager during the day and bartend at night, but then after some while it became too much.
Yeah,
and then you just
totally.
have to realize that like you got to put those extra hours into Seager, and like even though you could leave at 4 to go bartend, you should stay until 6 to work, or longer to work on Seager. So that was
Yeah.
kind of the change there, and then went back to being poor again.
We've been living there ever since.
It would stress me out a lot having a side job. Like,
Yeah.
when I get stressed, actually, I'd get anxious when I was working. Like, I was a bartender at a brewery, or
Yeah.
beer tender, whatever you call
Beer
it.
tender.
And every second that I was there, I just felt like I wasn't supposed to be there.
Mm.
It's like, oh, I'm literally just doing this so I could leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I always felt weird being at the other job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, that
Side
tension is
chick.
a weird place
Yeah.
to be.
It's like
Yeah.
my mind is running about something else while I'm talking to people and working.
Yeah.
It's a weird
yeah.
thing.
Yeah. I know for me it was like, I think either way, even if this like Arctic surf stuff never came up, I always filled my time after work with creative stuff.
Mhm.
And I'm very much like just introverted, love to be by myself in my room for hours just creating random stuff that I'm stoked on. And so this kind of like grew out of that. Like, so what happened was like around 2009, I got let go of my job. I was like doing marketing website stuff, and then times got tough at that job, and they're like, hey, we got to let you go for a period of time. And so I had like a few months where I was just like doing nothing. And I built this like diorama in my room out of like paper mache.
The diorama, the one you flip through really quick?
No, it's like a 3-dimensional like scene.
Yeah.
And it
What?
was like a point break with waves peeling on it, and then I like
What is that?
basically like took photos. I set up a tripod with a camera and took photos of like every step of the process, so I could see like where I needed to adjust things to make this like complete little world.
Damn.
And then I realized like at the end of it, if I take all those photos and put them on a timeline, it's like a time lapse.
Yeah.
And so it was like a time lapse of like
Stop motion.
of this thing coming together. And I submitted that to Surfer Magazine, and they posted it. That was like the first time I ever was in touch with Surfer Magazine, and it just felt so crazy that it got posted.
That sounds awesome.
Wow. And people probably thought I was crazy building this thing in my room, but I was just stoked on it. Like it had nothing to do with work or anything. So I think like that's kind of like the mindset that all this stuff came out of. So
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah.
It's cool. It's
That
cool
is
that Surfer Magazine was like supporting that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
I wonder if they have, if that you can still find that video.
It's
somewhere.
still up somewhere. It's called Storybook Land.
Oh, man.
Storybook land. That sounds right up my alley, dude. I'm down with all that. Wow. Do you ever get into
So-
claymation or anything?
When I was a kid, I did that a little bit. Yeah, that's
So-
like
I
that'd be
figured.
a dream job.
Yeah,
I'd love to
same.
do
Was this a
that, yeah.
3D model that you made?
It was like 3D paper, like construction paper.
Oh,
Is this
here
it?
Yeah.
Dude,
Wow.
this is so sick.
Storybook land. There
Oh
we go.
my god.
What?
Okay, I'm tripping here.
So you weren't even planning on doing this?
Well, this was just for fun.
Like you weren't planning on making it stop motion. You were just taking these photos.
Yeah, because I was trying to figure out like
Wow.
the framing of it.
What'd you base this off?
Dude.
Like, was this a certain wave?
This was just like inspired by New Zealand, like where I was living during that time. It was kind of
Wow.
like my ideal place to surf.
That is insane.
I love how you could see stuff change. and move.
You're like, no, I don't like that.
Wow.
Yeah, the soundtrack.
Yeah, right? Epic. Wow.
I like how it's a left.
Yeah, me too.
Wow.
Finally.
You might be able to go right.
Yeah, you're not sure. Might be rocks right there.
There's a lot of rocks right there.
Little spin
Dude.
at the end.
There's actually a beer can over there. But
That's insane.
That's so cool.
yeah, wow.
Are you
That-
still doing stuff like that, or like?
I
they-
wish.
like,
Dude,
doing
if
art?
I could do that full time.
We've been wanting that
100% do
forever.
that.
It's so
Really?
expensive. We've been reaching out. We're like,
Really?
we don't know
Yeah,
who
you
to
can
reach out
charge a
to.
lot.
We've been reaching out to people.
You
and
guys
it's
like
insane.
stop motion or what?
Yeah.
Specifically claymation, if we can.
Well, you-
Have you talked to Foster?
We
Like,
tried.
but I'm
We tried.
sure-
So expensive.
Sure, it's
yeah.
expensive.
But it's
Yeah.
sick.
It's
It's
so
so
sick.
sick.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's so sick.
What, would it be like a little mini story for you guys? Or
I don't
It could be
know.
anything.
Could be anything. A little
Could be like
rodeo
a-
sounds cool. You know.
Yeah.
I know I've talked to Foster too. It's gnarly.
Do you
There's
know
just,
how much he charges?
I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
What is he? What is
We're
he?
trying
told
to
you?
cheat
Let's hear
it.
the. I know. You know.
I think. Well, for what I was trying to do was like, I think it was somewhere between 20 and 40K.
Okay.
That sounds right. That's what I
Was that
remember
for
in that
something
ballpark.
long?
What's that?
Like, how long would that have been?
I think it would be like 30 seconds of something.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So wild.
I
But
know.
it's like there's so much work that goes into it.
Yeah.
It's so time consuming and like animating it, creating the models. It's all like
That's
custom
insane.
from scratch. Yeah.
What a crazy business endeavor to get into. Like,
Yeah, it's so
How many
sick.
people are willing to pay that much for 30 seconds of claymation? You know.
I know.
I gotta
know.
look at his website and see like what he's done for people, because I've seen all the stuff that he's posted of that character that he made up.
Yeah, yeah.
But that seems like it was
Which
for
one?
him personally.
Like the
Yeah,
rabbit thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Carl
Yeah, that
Sagan
thing's
kind of
sick.
stuff.
Yeah.
So
I think
sick.
he's done some stuff for like Travel Oregon and then maybe like Nike or Adidas.
I think I saw a stance one
yeah.
at one point. Remember that skate one?
The skate one.
Yeah, that one was.
That,
I thought
that was like a full little story, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I
Was
wish
it Stance? I thought that was
I
like
thought it was
Vans or
Stance.
I don't
Ruka or something.
think.
It
I
wasn't
think it was
Stance?
just like a film. Like
I
he
would
just, like,
bet
made it
you
for
a
himself.
dollar right now that
It
was
was
Stance.
branded.
There we go.
It was
$1.
Stance.
I'll bet you $1.
$1.
It was just for him.
Oh.
Wait, so how we
I don't
doing
know.
this?
I actually do. I kind of do
Just
remember.
write
there
Stance.
being-
It should come up. Claymation,
called?
maybe. Movie Mountain is the name, I think, of his.
Pool Scum, right?
Pool Scum.
Cool scum.
Yeah, First Stance. Pool Scum.
First dance.
First Stance. Watch it. Watch it.
I don't
It,
see
it,
it.
it had Stance in it. I'm pretty sure it had their logo in it. If it has their logo in
They
it,
could
I
have just
win.
been a sponsor.
You don't want $1. That's
But I don't lose
You said
$1
it was
because
for
I feel
that.
like
What
Like-
was the bet?
that.
$1.
it was for Stance.
That was
They
for
paid for it. Someone had to pay for that.
Hey, he
He
gets
does it for
sponsors.
There's no way he just does. He's got to pay these people.
Staff pick. There you
Staff
go.
pick.
Oh, wow.
Is there a Stance logo in there? Give me Stance.
Nope.
Stance.
Nope.
Stance.
Passion project.
Oh, you made
Oh
$1.
my
Kidding. I just made that up, but
Dude, someone So
But
cool.
I don't remember seeing any brand, because I remember when I watched, it's like, no way. There's like no brands in it or anything.
Yeah, just passion.
It is crazy.
That is the coolest project ever.
Yeah, this is
Insane.
pretty legendary.
Ah,
This is you, Elliott.
that's me for sure. Look at that. My neck doesn't move like that though.
It's a Porsche guy.
I'm more of a Porsche guy, Mercedes.
Yeah, I could totally see you
Wow.
getting into this kind of
Oh my
stuff.
gosh,
Dude.
I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah, that's like a dream job.
You basically invented this.
Yeah.
It's like you did this
Yeah,
10
right.
years ago, 15 years ago.
Dude, Wallace and Gromit was early.
Oh, I
and
love Wallace and Gromit.
I grew up on that.
Did you?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
so good.
My dad's from England. I had a
No way.
We had a minivan and it had a VHS player in it, and we just had, you just kind of shove them under the seats and stuff, and it was
Yeah.
all Wallace and Gromit. And then I inherited
love
that
that.
van for high school, which was great. And I would just plop them in.
Yeah,
you
they're
know what
so
I mean? Like,
good.
wake up, plop it in.
We want to give a shout out to a sponsor of today's episode, Desert Door Sotol. Desert Door Sotol, the most premium spirit, distilled in Driftwood, Texas. Desert Door. Desert Door is wildly harvested, fermented, distilled, and bottled by Desert Door in Driftwood, Texas. Check them out at desertdoor.com. Today's episode is brought to you by All Hands Canned Cocktails. Just got out to camping land, got me a cooler full of cans. What do you know, they're all just cans of All Hands. Pretty soon I'm drinking all 5 flavors. Ooh, 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 getting drunk off All Hands. All Hands makes craft cocktails out of Austin, Texas. Their cocktails are made with 6 times distilled craft vodka and 100% all natural ingredients. Check them out at allhandscocktails.com.
Yeah, and I used to
Go to
love
school,
like the
flop it.
behind the scenes of how they did it. Like
Dude.
I love that stuff. Just
Yeah.
seeing people that do that full time for their job. It's crazy.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the one with the chickens?
Oh,
Chicken Run.
Oh, yeah.
That
That was
one
a
was good.
crazy one.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, that's so
All of them.
sick. I love that. That's the dream, is just like doing all these creative random projects
Right.
that are just like that, you know?
I know.
You had some, I forget exact, because I only saw it once, but at the film premiere for, what's the film called again?
Island
Shout
X.
out. Island X.
Yeah.
You had something in there that was like paper mache, creative.
Oh yeah, we had animation.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like hand drawn animation.
Did you do that?
I did the drawings.
Okay.
And then we had an animator.
That was
bring
good.
it to life. Yeah,
I
that was
loved it
super
a lot.
fun.
That it's out, right? Everyone could watch it.
Yeah, Island
Okay.
X. It's out on Amazon Prime Video.
Oh.
Damn.
Yeah.
How'd you get Prime?
Yeah. Who does the business side of your deals? You?
So that's through a distributor,
Okay.
1091 Media, and they've done other films I've been a part of, like Arc of Volusia, Under an Arctic Sky. They do a lot of like adventure sports films.
That's cool.
And so basically, like, when you team up with them, they put it on all the different platforms. Like, sometimes it'll be Red Bull or Outside TV, but yeah. So
Do they give you like a commission for what they make, or is it the other way around?
it's the other way around. It's like a
Gotcha.
split. Yeah.
Cool.
So
When you guys are going on trips and have sponsors or partners, is that all you? Like, how do you go about that?
like the planning of it, or
How you fund the projects for it to make sense for you?
yeah, okay. I mean, I guess it's always different. Like sometimes you just have a brand that's like psyched and wants to do a cool project. For Island X, it was like really organic and kind of grassroots. Like I got in contact with a scientist who was working on a tiny island up in the Bering Sea.
Wait, what? He's working on like he's making it or something?
Well, no, he was like he was like stationed on the
Oh,
island.
okay.
The scientist is building an island.
Yeah.
I know.
It's like claymation. Like,
Yeah, that's where my
No,
head went.
he was stationed on this island, and he was doing marine research, and he's a surfer, and he lives in the Pacific Northwest.
Wow.
And he'd go up there, and like he's been up there for years, and he was seeing all these crazy waves up there, and nobody was surfing them. He couldn't really surf them because he was working for a government program, and so he couldn't like bring a surfboard with him because it's all paid for by his work.
Gotcha.
But he started sending me photos, and he's like, "You guys gotta come up here! Like, it's insane." And I kind of didn't believe him at first because, like, you see
It's like
photos.
catfish.
Yeah, and it's like you see photos of like a glimmer of a wave that looks really good, but that doesn't tell the whole story. And especially for like filming, like a photo is one thing, but to like film a good wave has to be like crazy, like on another level. And so I was really skeptical, and eventually like I went up there with a buddy just to like scout it and see what was up there. And this was like in 2019, and I felt like I wanted to work on a project that was more like thoughtful and slower paced, because most of the surf films that I've done, it's like you show up in this remote place and it's like really hard to get there, really hard to get the funds to get there, so you can only go one time, and then you capture as much as you can, and then you leave and you can't really go back, and then you're stuck with that footage.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I would love to like dive deeper into a place and like get to know it before we plan out what the film's gonna be. So I went up there with a buddy and like met the local people, and there's a tiny little town and a lot of like native Alaskan people that live there, a lot of fishermen, and a lot of tribal land, and then this government research program. And so it was, I didn't even know if we'd be able to film anything or even surf there, because it's everything is so like regulated and territorial, and I just wanted to like meet the right people, and before we brought up like a bunch of surfers and all that.
Yeah, were people like confused when you first got there?
Yeah, so we landed on this island, and my buddy Jeff and I went to the local bar. There's like one little bar, and we were just like posted up chatting, and this girl from like a table next to us was like, hey, what are you guys doing here? Like, you're obviously not from here.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, we're working on a surf film. Like, we're looking for waves. And she's like, oh, no way. Like, you should meet my brother. Like, he's a surfer. He lives here on the island. Like, he's a few miles, like, outside of town. I'll take you up there, and you guys can meet him. And so she jumped on her quad, and we followed her on this, like, super rugged road out into the middle of nowhere to this, like, point on the other side of the island. And her brother...
That sounds like the classic way of how you like get kidnapped right there.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it was so
someone at a
weird.
bar.
Like, we had no idea what we were in for. And her brother, his name's Ricardo, and his partner Brooke, they were both out there building a cabin when we were pulled up. And they're kind of like, whoa, who are you guys? Like, what's going on? And we're like, we're surfers. We're like looking for waves. And he's like, whoa, crazy. Well, like, this whole land is like our family's ancestral land, and there's a little wave right here, and like I've been surfing it by myself for like 10 years. And so he's like, he grew up on this island. He'd been surfing there. And so then it was completely flat though when we were there. But I'd seen enough photos to feel like, oh, if we come in the right season, like we'll get some kind of waves. And so then I hit up my buddy Mark McInnes, who's a surf photographer, and Mark and I had been kind of scheming to do a trip for years together that was just like purely out of friendship and froth. And so we came back with Noah Wigridge, Pete DeVries, and Josh Mulcoy that October, and got killer waves, like really fun surf, really great weather, just super playful. And the best wave that we got on that trip was right in front of Ricardo's cabin on his land. And
sick.
so I was just tripping. So that's kind of like the backstory of that film. And, and basically what happened was we did that first trip, and had like enough to make maybe like a 8 to 10 minute edit. But I really wanted to like pay everybody back, because everybody had just like put in their own time and money to like get there, flights.
How long did you guys stay there for?
Like 10 days.
Okay.
And my buddy Mike Nolte, like he came to shoot camera stuff as well. And so I felt like everybody just like donated their own time and passion to it. And I was like, oh, I really want to like support these guys for believing in this. But like, what do you do with like an 8-minute edit? Like when you have like 6 people on your team and all that stuff. So I was like, wow, I got to get some sponsors. So then we started hitting up different brands and putting together like a pitch deck. And like, I felt like the only way I could bring in funding to make it worthwhile would be to like make the film at least 25 minutes long and make it an actual film. So then it was like, well, then we have to go back, right? Because it's not enough material. And so then I got the sponsors on board, was making plans for a second trip, and then COVID happened.
Damn.
And then everything was on hold for 2 years because the island was completely shut down. and then the airlines that flies to this island went out of business because it's just like a tiny airlines. And then in that time, Mark's house burned down, and he had his entire life's in that house, and that was like all gone, including all of his photos from the first trip.
Wow.
So wild.
So it felt like I don't even know what's going to happen with this project at this point.
Yeah.
But then we finally made it back in December of last year, and kind of got special permission to go to the island because we just quarantined for like 10 days essentially, and we're just like in a cabin on our own and like never saw a single human. And Ricardo, the local, came up and hung out with us as well, and so got waves again, like barely made it that time because of weather. And at that time, like the project had just snowballed, and we're like, oh man, like we should do a tour, like we should do all this stuff. And then at that point, like brands were really psyched to support the tour. Like Juneshine came on, Arc'teryx, Hydro Flask, 10 Barrel Brewing.
Sick.
So yeah, it was like crazy. So it definitely snowballed from like the original vision that was just like purely passion project.
It's so wild.
Yeah, it was like really trippy because I can't even believe that it's all come together after 3+ years of shooting and planning.
Jeez.
So yeah.
So where?
But
Is Island X, but like, is it a known island? Does it have a name?
It does,
Is
but
that
you got to
a
watch
secret?
the movie.
Yeah.
No,
There
it's in
you
the
go.
movie.
There you go.
But yeah, but yeah, I mean, that's a long way to answer your question, but like that was like a very organic way of like funding this project.
Yeah.
So, but they're not all like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really expensive to go to these remote places and really fickle, and you don't really know if it's going to be successful or not. So it's like extremely nerve-wracking. And like on that last trip up to the island, it was in December, and we almost didn't make it at all. We were stuck in Anchorage because of weather, waiting for the weather to clear. And because it's so far towards Russia, it's actually in a completely different weather system than mainland Alaska. So like if you're gonna leave Anchorage, the weather has to be good there, but then you also have to have a good weather window over the Bering Sea, which is totally different. And for those two to like link up at the same time is super rare because they're both in like weather heavy areas. And so we were like stuck in this hotel for days, like burning through what like our little funds that we had to be up there in the first place. And then it was like got to the point where I was like, I think we might not even make it out. We might just have to like head home. And we ended up getting a spot on a cargo flight out there.
How do you get on a cargo flight?
We just asked around at the airport, like any airlines that was able to fly in those weather conditions.
Where did you sit?
It was like a little like passenger plane. It was like a 8-seater, something like that.
Like a
What were they
Cessna.
flying out there? Just random boxes and stuff?
Well, yeah, like
Just random boxes.
I mean,
Or like, was it like,
Amazon.
Yeah, 8 more.
well, I mean, it's like all the rural communities of Alaska. Like a lot of them are not on the main road network. Like they're all just like plane only or boat only.
wow.
And so that's how they're connected. And so these airlines make their money like flying out to these communities and supplying them.
Damn.
And so they're usually like pretty dialed. But sometimes the commercial airlines are not, like they're not able to do it. So
Yeah.
it took us 2 flights. Like we went out once, had to turn around, come back because we couldn't land. And then that cargo flight actually got us out there.
Gnarly. That's
Yeah.
terrifying to get on that plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds dangerous.
There's no bathroom
Cessna.
on it. It's like a 6-hour flight.
Wow, what'd
Yeah.
you do? Just hold
They
it?
have like little baggies for you.
Whoa, like a puke bag, but like a little piss bag?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's
Someone
fun.
use
I'm
it?
down, honestly. Long
Not
time.
on that one. On a different one through the Aleutian Islands. I think Alex Gray used it one time.
Wow, I probably would.
That's
6
so
hours is
funny.
a long time.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
How do you pay for a cargo flight? Like I'm a
The
Parcel.
sponsors chipped in for that. That was crazy. We basically had to just buy out the entire flight.
damn.
And then what was crazy about that is like, since we own that whole flight just for our crew, that was like the only way to get back and forth from the island in that week. And so imagine there's all these like local people on the island that are stuck there trying to get back to the mainland. And there's people that are like wanting surgery, like medical procedures, different family things they have to
Yeah.
get back to. And as soon as the locals heard that our flight was coming out,
They probably hated you.
they started hitting me up on Facebook saying
Oh.
like, how much are plane tickets? And then all of a sudden I
What?
started like wheeling and dealing like
That's
plane
sick.
tickets with people like on the fly. And I was like, it was like the night before our flight. We're trying
That's
to like get
awesome.
our stuff together. I'm like, they're like, how much is a seat? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, this is heavy.
Dude,
Like,
that's
what do you
so
do?
heavy.
So I sold,
What did you do?
I just like gave them a super good deal. Like,
He said no cancellations 24 hours.
Yeah,
before.
exactly.
We have one carry-on.
yeah, I think we had like 3 or 4 seats sold. So
Wow,
yeah,
that's
it was
fun.
a trip. Yeah,
That's fun.
That's so random that it
I
came through
know.
like Facebook. I
Yeah.
wonder how they even found out. And got
I know.
Back to you.
I don't know. I've just like a lot of those tiny communities love Facebook. I don't know what
Just
it
a
is, but
tiny community up there in that
yeah,
cold,
yeah,
cold
yeah,
tiny community.
yeah.
That is so wild. I don't know much, to be honest, of that whole area. Like you're saying, different weather systems and stuff. It just kind of tripped me out because I never really think of the Bering Strait, to be honest. Last time I thought about that was in high school, I think. The
Yeah.
land bridge, you know.
Never think about
Yeah.
being straight.
I just don't think of the Bering. That's funny.
Dude, well, that
That's funny.
yeah, that's interesting. Like I remember that too from high school.
Yeah. They really drove that point home.
Yeah,
Like, This
yeah.
is how we got here.
Right, right. And it's weird. Like after that trip happened, I was like looking around online like to find out more information about the island, and I found out that there's actually like mammoth skeletons that were found on that island.
Fresh.
That were like the most recently alive mammoths
Oh my
in the
God.
world. That
That
were like,
part of the film was so crazy.
yeah,
How
like,
recent we talking?
like 4,000 years ago,
Oh my
4 to 5,000 years ago. Yeah,
It's kind of gnarly.
yeah. And so like I didn't even know that when we were there, but like it's weird to think that that little island is like a remnant, and there's these like mammoths walking
There's
around.
probably so much stuff in
They
there.
say they're
right?
still alive on that island.
Right?
believe it.
I heard
Yeah.
something that they're trying to engineer them back into existence. Did you see that
Underwater
too?
I saw that. Yeah.
Did you see that too?
Dude, yeah.
Did
I
you see
love
that?
idea.
No.
Dude, yeah, I know. I'm into it too. It's
Yeah,
like, but I
Jurassic
just
Park.
don't want like the T-Rex. I'm like,
Yeah.
no raptors and no T-Rex.
Exactly.
Other than that,
No,
I'm down.
pterodactyls scare the fuck out.
Oh,
of me.
you're right. You're right. Nothing that can fly, nothing that can swim. Because
Wait,
I'm
but
not
my
down for that
question is,
either.
Why? Why are they doing that?
Because
for
it's
fun.
good
Why
meat.
not?
It's good
Yeah.
meat, bro. All the methane from the cows.
Those are huge animals.
They're huge, but I'm down. I mean,
Yeah.
I think
I
I'm
mean,
down.
I'm not down. I'm just questioning the why.
The only way to hunt them is with spears. If they said that. You can get, you got a tag? Here's 2 spears. Good luck.
It'd be insane.
With a net.
Absolutely
You
insane.
ever watch that movie 10,000 BC or something like that?
Yeah.
Is that what
You know what I'm talking about? The guy with the white guy with the dreads.
Yeah.
Would you say Jonah Hill?
Isn't that Jonah Hill? Isn't that?
No, I don't think so.
Is it like a Nat Geo thing?
No, it was a full movie, like an action movie, you know, and he fights like a saber tooth and stuff.
There's like a spin-off of it that like comedy guys are in.
I don't blame him. It is pretty funny, but there's them hunting, his tribe hunting a woolly. It just makes me think of that in the future. Sounds hilarious, and I'm
Willy
down.
Mammoth. I love
But I don't know if that's fake or not. 'Cause I saw another one on TikTok that was like a Instagram of TikTok. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You're scrolling,
Yeah.
and it was some like white coat scientist, which I now know is faked, and she's holding like a fake baby dinosaur.
No.
It said something like they're remaking, you know, the ones with the horns that look like
Yeah.
rhinos.
Yeah.
It was a baby one of those.
Triceratops.
It was so. Is it? It
Yeah.
was so real looking,
Was it from
like
Jurassic Park
animatronic
or
kind of
That's so
thing.
sick.
And I
I
was
love that.
watching it like, what? We're making those already? It was insane.
Already?
Yeah,
Already.
it's inevitable.
No one
bro.
let me know.
Once you make a movie, it's a matter of time until someone
That
makes
was
it.
Look
my
alive,
favorite
baby.
childhood
Look alive.
movie, Jurassic Park.
Park.
I love that.
Yeah, that was great.
It's
Such a
still
good
one of the
movie.
best.
It really is. They're
stands
still
out.
moving them
Yeah.
though. You do you watch the new ones,
Yeah, I'm not
New-
super into
Yeah,
the
new one
ones,
was
but
bad.
right?
Yeah.
They try to carry it on a little.
I
Yeah.
feel like they just ran the entire movie. They were just running.
Yeah,
the whole
yeah,
time.
pretty much.
Like literally.
Chris
They just
Pratt.
couldn't
Totally
stop
right.
running.
I like
Chris Pratt can run.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Land Before Time. Anyone?
Oh, wow.
I cried.
Yeah. See.
Yeah, that's a very heavy one.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to watch. Speaking of touching movies, speaking of touching, what was it? I just downloaded it. I was gonna watch it. Brother Bear. It's so random.
Oh, that's a great one. That's the one to cry to too.
I'm like, wow, I haven't seen that one in forever. I'm down with that. That's magical.
Spirited Away.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
dude, yeah, the
So
classics,
emotional.
dude. Animation is all time,
It is.
and one day there will be a Seager animation movie.
By Ben
One
Weiland.
day,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's the dream.
we'll be your first client for your claymation
I would
studio.
love to do an animated movie.
That would be.
If you have time.
Animated
sick.
surf exploration documentary.
It'd be crazy.
Oh my god,
So you can do anything with that.
Yeah.
It's like
You
a.
don't even have to travel.
It's like a
Exactly.
behind the scenes animation. You know.
That's
That's like how it went
insane.
down.
Exactly.
Wait. What do you mean by that?
just like their story of how they shot it, but it's all claymation of them. Like,
Oh wow, that's sick. What if you went to those places but actually did claymation in the area?
Yeah, like-
Make it even more expensive.
You guys cool
So
if we set up
meta.
shop here? Dude, get out of here.
We need a flight. We need a flight.
We have a lot of clay. We have a lot of boxes of clay. We got to get it over there. That's crazy.
I'm curious on was that Arc'teryx's like first surf film that they've sponsored? Because I saw that they were a sponsor for it, and I was like,
That's a good
damn,
question.
Yeah.
because they're obviously like so in the mountaineering and trail running
Right.
world.
Yeah. So they sponsor Pete DeVries. Like, he's their only pro surfing athlete. And
Gotcha.
so I know they've done a lot with him in the past. But I don't know if they've done like a full length surf film like this before. And I was shocked. Like the fact that they came on for, I was like, whoa, this is sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I guess
clutch
it's
too. All those
perfect.
Super
jackets.
cool. Yeah. And their stuff is like amazing. So
Yeah.
I was
They hook
super
you up with some
pumped.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, did they like outfit the whole trip?
Well,
Yeah,
they came on afterwards, right?
It came on after. I actually was wearing one of their jackets like before.
Oh,
they
that
came
probably
on,
helped
which was
so
kinda
much.
Sick too, because I
Yeah.
made like a little teaser reel and.
Mm-hmm.
But are you in the film though?
Just for a brief moment. Yeah.
Okay, I need to watch it. I'm sorry, I haven't seen it
Yeah.
yet. But
Is it like Stan Lee or whatever?
really
You know, he always
good.
sneaks himself in there. You should always do that. Just sneak yourself
Good
in.
idea. But yeah, that was sick. Like, I love that. I love that they're not like known to be a surf brand, and it was fun. So
That is really
Yeah.
cool. Patagonia's though. I know they're more in surf now, but I feel like at some point it was the same thing, right?
yeah,
They were mountaineering only for a while.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
now they have a whole surf program.
yeah. And I remember being shocked when they first went into surf. I was like, this is the sickest thing ever.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe that.
They
Yeah.
did a good job at breaking into it.
Yeah.
What would be your favorite brand to shoot for? Or even company? It doesn't even have to be a brand.
Whoa, I don't know. I honestly don't know how to answer that.
You don't
Yeah,
have
right.
one
I
that you're
don't-
like, I've been wanting to work with them.
Dude, I think more of like Movie Mountain or something like
Yeah.
that.
I love
creative
Movie
side. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have like a specific like company brand. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's dream to work with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it Oregon? Where's he up at? Or
Yeah,
Washington?
I think Washington.
Washington?
Yeah. So
Jeez, that's cool.
I mean, something like that. Like, that's my dream, is just like fully creative. So
How often are you
yeah.
doing like the graphics for your videos or just in general?
every once in a while. I mean, it doesn't come up a ton, but I usually do it. And then lately I've been working more with other people. Like for Island X, we had a friend do all the illustration, like for the poster and the graphics and all that. And that was really cool. I think for myself, like lately, I used to kind of wear all the hats of everything in the videos and in the films, and it's really exciting to like spread that out and like bring other people in and kind of like broaden the scope of like the creativity going into a project. And I think before I kind of felt like I needed to do it and I didn't really have the resources to like spread that out. But I've just found like the bigger your team is, like the richer the whole thing becomes. And so it's been cool like bringing other people on to do that stuff. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
It's definitely a good way to look at it, especially with a creative thing like that. It sounds hard to kind of be down to give away more,
yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
totally.
but I feel like you're saying, as long as you all respect each other and you're into the same sort of end goal or what you're thinking,
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, and just feeling like I don't have to have my name on
Yeah.
all the different pieces, you know, like that's not really what it's about. It's more about just creating like a cohesive whole that's like really exciting and fun. So
That's
Yeah.
cool.
yeah,
Damn. What's your favorite trip? I guess I don't know if we already asked.
that's
that
a
or not.
hard one too.
Yeah, I know.
There's like different reasons I could name different ones. One of my favorite ones was the first Aleutian Islands trip I did with Chris for Surfer Magazine in like 2014, and that film was called Cradle of Storms. And at that point, like neither Chris nor I had been out there before, but like Steve Hawk and Doc Reneker and some other guys had been there in like the late 90s. And they had gotten like some waves out there and kind of saw the potential, so we knew there was like something out there, but we didn't really know like how good it would be. And so we put this whole trip together, and it felt like we were going out to the edge of the planet into the middle of nowhere, because there's like so many different tiers of flights that you have to take to get out there. And we landed on this tiny volcanic island. It was like, we didn't know this at the time because there's like no photos of this place online at the time.
How'd you
And-
know about those two surfers that went there?
Well, Steve Hawk was the editor of
Okay.
Surfer Magazine in the 90s, and they had an article about that trip.
Gotcha.
But we didn't really know a lot about the place. When we landed, like, the runway is in front of this, like, massive snow-capped volcano. And it's just, like, a dirt runway, and there's a crashed plane, like, at the end of the runway.
Jeez.
And there's just, like, caribou, like, herding over the hill.
Damn.
And then we got on these quads and just booked it down to the coast to, like, check the surf where we thought there might be waves. And, like, when we came over the hill, there was just, like, a firing left reef.
Jeez.
And it was, like, sunny out and beautiful, and we were tripping. Like, basically, we got everything we needed for that trip, like, that first evening. Like,
Damn.
the waves were so good.
That's perfect.
And we still had, like, 10 more days there. And so we were in this, like, hunting lodge and just posted up and got, like, crazy waves the entire time. And I was just so, like, blown away by that place, like, not knowing what we were getting ourselves into. And, like, a lot of these trips, I felt like you're stoked if you can get maybe, like, onshore surf and capture, like, novelty surfing. And, like, that's it. Like, that's all I need to be stoked, you know? But
Yeah.
when you get something like that, you're just like, I can't believe places like this exist, where, like, it feels like it was created for surfing, but it's in this, like, remote, isolated place.
And nobody surfs
And
it.
nobody surfs it.
Yeah. That's
But
so
the
weird.
trip about that place is that there's actually a solo guy who had been out there in the early 90s, and he had surfed it first, as far as we know. He had just, like, backpacked through Alaska by himself along the coastline and posted up and, like, camped out there on that island for, like, a month and scored surf
Wild.
just by himself.
I don't
And-
understand people like
And took, like, 3 photos total, and, like, they ended up somewhere online, and I found him, and I'd gotten in touch with this guy, and, like, he had helped, like, guide us out there and, like, help me, like, put some of the pieces together. And he never was, like, looking for publicity or credit or anything.
Damn.
And just a trip that there's people like that. So
Wow.
yeah, and it's weird, like, the more I've gone out to those places, the more I've just found that there's been people like that from way back that have done it, like, solo, like, super
That's
grindy,
so
and
gnarly.
Yeah.
nobody
ballsy to
knows
get out
about
there and
it.
do it.
Yeah, crazy.
Especially somewhere like that, because it's just dangerous.
yeah, yeah.
Like, that's basically the movie. What's the movie? The guy goes out by himself
Oh, Into the Wild.
into the wild.
Yeah.
Oh, Christopher McCandless.
Basically that exact
Yeah,
movie
yeah.
right there.
It's like that in Point Break.
Yeah.
Had a baby.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
There's, like, no internet, like, nothing. It's like, and, like,
Wow.
how do you even know what's out there? Like, you
Yeah.
have no clue.
That's
Well, if
yeah.
he's backpacking, how do you get to an island? You know
Right?
what I mean?
I think
Swim.
he was just catching boats out
Swim
there.
pack.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just, like, going from
That's,
island
like,
to
with a
island on
surfboard?
boats. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
That's so
I would
wild.
never do that by myself.
Yeah, isn't
I
that
know.
crazy?
I
I'd
know.
be scared.
Yeah, and so I stayed in touch with that guy for, like, 10 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
So-
Pen pals.
How's he doing?
He passed away, like, 2 years ago. I
Oh,
think.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's a bummer to hear.
Yeah. I wasn't, like, I never met him in person. I was kind of scared of him, actually. He was, like,
Sounds intimidating.
pretty
for sure.
wild. Like, he knew, like, I had, like, offered to do a little write-up about his story, and he, like, didn't want any publicity. And I don't know, he was, like, a very quirky character
Yeah.
and, like, mysterious, and he was, like, always traveling the world even into his, like, 60s and 70s. And he'd send me photos of, like, random point breaks in Chile that he was, like, posted up at. And,
Jeez, what a legend.
yeah.
Wonder how
crazy.
good of a surfer he was. Like, I wonder if he
know.
was like just, you know, not that good, but like would just go to these waves.
I have no idea. Yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of hope for that. It sounds just so attainable, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Makes it
Yeah.
more romantic when he's just not good.
Right.
If he was really good, it's like, he's just following his dream. But otherwise, it's like, wow, he's really sending it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Just paddling out on the waves. Like,
Getting work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
this works.
It's awesome, though. But
I
you think you
get
good.
nervous when you like go to a normal spot and
Yeah.
you've never surfed it before,
Yeah.
and you're just like, I don't know where the rocks are, or I don't know where I can like, you know, get
Yeah.
off on the wave, or,
Right.
you know, like stuff like that. But if you show up to a random island and
On your own.
breaking left, and you're like,
Yeah.
all right, well,
That's so
go try
heavy.
this. Hopefully,
Yeah,
I
and,
don't
like,
die.
if you do get hurt, like, there's no help close by. Like, you'd
Yeah.
have to get
You know, cut it off.
a helicopter from, like, a nearby island that would take you to that island, and then take a plane to, like, mainland Alaska.
Jeez.
I don't know.
While you're
There's the
screaming.
funds for the trip. Go
Yeah,
on.
right.
Yeah,
Gone.
exactly.
And the
On a
rest
new
of your
arm.
life.
Wouldn't even want to think about that. It's not
Exactly.
really.
Yeah.
What even
Exactly.
about like animals in the water in Alaska. I feel like there's probably crazy stuff out there.
Mammoths. Aren't there woolly mammoths?
Yeah, swimming. Yeah. There's definitely huge sea lions. Yeah. And
I feel like
whales.
that could just be so sketchy when you go to random
Orcas.
places.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's just
Orcas.
animals that have been there for years and you're
Yes.
all over their territory.
Frozen in time.
And there's mummies out there. There's like,
No way.
yeah, there's like mummified people because like people
What?
have
Oh
lived
my
out there for
gosh.
thousands of years, and yeah, it's crazy.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, yeah, are they walking around like real mummies?
No, like in caves. Like they've discovered like caves with mummified people. And
Wow.
Like supposedly there's a cave on that island where these guys went into the cave and the mummies were like standing up. And they had
What?
basically like set them up so that they look like they're
Oh, God.
still like alive.
That's
Whoa.
terrifying. That's some Indiana Jones
Yeah.
shit right there.
Yeah.
You've never seen any of that though?
Gnarly.
No.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Wow.
Like when you're there, it's so hard to get around. Like to get to some of these more remote
Yeah.
places is extremely difficult. And like usually when you're there to surf, you're just like focusing on these tiny little zones that you
Yeah.
can actually access.
Not like caves with
I just
mummies.
had-
But that
Yeah.
sounds epic though, doesn't it?
But
I just had
does,
like
yeah.
this full like thought process of Ben walking through like the jungle, and there's like he's like bending down to pick something up, and like arrows are like,
Yeah,
shooting over his
exactly.
head. It's like, no, I've never seen any of that. Like,
Yeah. Dude, that's crazy to think. I wonder if they'd crossed the Bering Strait, and those are the earliest Americans.
Well,
out
yeah,
there.
I mean there was like a thriving civilization all through those islands.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's like actually, and it's interesting too because the Aleutians like dip pretty far south, so the climate there is like relatively warm. It's not like mainland Alaska, and it's
I don't know where it
maritime. You know, like it snows, but the snow doesn't really stick there, and so
Jeez.
yeah.
Can you get a map up or something? I just have
Yeah.
no idea. I'm thinking
spell
of Alaska.
Aleutian
I'm thinking of E.
ALE.
Ah, damn it.
T.
It's a silent E.
Is there anywhere like that has been like untouched by surfers that you're trying to go next?
Aleutian?
Yeah.
I-A-N?
And
It's hard to get to. And it takes a lot of planning.
Wait, what'd you
is
say?
that like a
A-L-E?
next film idea?
S.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I don't know
CH.
what's next yet.
Yeah.
That's what it is, yeah.
Aleutian.
Crazy.
Oh, yeah, we got it.
Oh, it's TIAN.
I just need to. That makes sense. Shin. I don't know why that's Shin, but it's Tien.
Aleutian.
I was never good at
That
it.
looks more Greek than anything.
That looks like the Mediterranean?
No, the name.
Oh.
The name
Yeah, I
itself.
don't think you've been to Greece, bro.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's summertime.
That
when
looks
it's green,
beautiful.
but it's
Wow,
usually
yeah.
flat in the summer.
I just needed like a visual in my head.
Wow.
I feel
Oh,
it's
of
a
the
really-
map?
Yeah. Okay. Now I see what you're saying. That's what I'm saying. I haven't thought about the Bering Strait in so long. It's really tripping out my
There's
head.
like 164 islands, I think.
And it dips pretty low, so
It does,
Does
yeah.
some of them are some of them warm in the winter? No, probably not.
I wouldn't say warm.
That's crazy.
But like if you look at the latitude, it's like probably almost to Vancouver Island, like
Okay,
that far
so-
Oh,
south.
really?
That's
It's 47 degrees there right now
Jesus.
That's not that bad.
in the
for
attic.
October.
In the attic? Oh, a duct.
I did
ADAC.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
You believe me? Wow. That seems very. So are the flights just terrifying every single time
Yeah, I mean you're just in these tiny planes.
in a storm
Yeah.
with cargo, random
super,
boxes
super
rolling around?
expensive. Although ADAC has a military base on it,
Oh.
or at least it used to. So it has a pretty big airport, and I think you can take like a
Jeez.
commercial airliner there
wow.
pretty safely. Like it doesn't matter what the weather is.
Gnarly.
Yeah. This
Those
is
are-
interesting because like ADAC has
Whoa.
this
what?
like abandoned military community, and it has like an old McDonald's, and it's all just empty,
It's
Really?
terrifying.
and it's like a suburbs out there.
Yeah, it looks like a nuke town.
You guys should
Yeah.
just rent that.
All the suburbs
Free.
are empty?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, you can just explore them. Apparently, there's like old
Trippy.
military hangars, and
Jeez.
yeah,
On
and then like they
ADAC.
tested, the government tested nuclear bombs on like a neighboring island.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's
That's
trippy.
good.
So gnarly.
You could probably find some weird stuff out there.
There's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's mummies up
What
there.
about Atka?
Oh, that looks beautiful.
I've been
Been to Atka. Yeah, that's a tiny community. Yeah, so we've actually
Jeez.
flown the length of, or half the length of the Aleutians a few times, just doing like aerial recon. And
looking
you
for
can-
surf.
Yeah, and all the islands are very different. Like some are like extremely volcanic and like cliffy, and so there's no waves.
Crazy.
And then other ones have like zones that look like there's a ton of potential, and but it's just
Jeez.
access. Like a lot of them, you wouldn't even be able to land a plane on them.
What? Okay.
And then if you're taking a boat, you're like a 2-week boat trip through the worst
God.
of your life. Yeah.
At least you're probably catching crab, right?
Yeah.
Just live on that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that
Hopefully
is.
lobster.
So wait, how did you first find that first wave again? What was the connection there?
Surfer's Journal, right?
That first story.
Yeah.
That I'd heard about that place through Steve Hawk from Surfer Magazine.
That's
Okay.
what it is. Surfer Magazine.
And then I'd gotten in touch with that dude from the 90s, Bob Kemp. Like I'd seen his photos.
No, actually,
Random
sorry. I
dude.
meant to say the first story, as in like the one where the guy is living on the.
Oh, Island X.
Yeah.
That was a scientist who had been following my work, reached out to me. And was
Oh,
sending
that's what it
photos.
was.
Yeah.
That's
That's so cool that you
Yeah.
liked your work, bro.
Yeah.
That's something to be proud of right there.
Yeah.
If I were you, I would just be like always checking my email.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Some random scientists or
know.
like random people. To
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
You should. Do you ever send out like a message like, hey, if you ever know of any?
I haven't.
crazy
That's a good
waves?"
idea, though. Yeah, I love
Should.
that.
I'm sure there's so
I mean, I've had people just send me like, "Hey, this is like my secret personal spot. Don't tell anybody.
What? I'm turning
it's like-
myself in, but don't tell anybody.
Like, check it out. It's like an empty left point."
What?
Why would they do that?
I know.
Yeah, they're just
Yeah.
like they're just stoked. Like I think people that have spots like that, they're so stoked and they want to share it with somebody.
Yeah.
But
It's almost
can't.
like a lonely experience to like have
Yeah.
that and
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
get to share the joy of it.
Gosh, that sounds so fun though. You just have a perfect left out in front of your house.
Yeah.
just full of booby traps and nuclear bombs and mummies swimming around.
Yeah. There's so
insane.
much
It does come
coastline
down
there.
pretty far.
Yeah.
You know what would be
God,
cool?
Alaska's
You
huge.
did something that was just like closing your eyes and putting your finger on the
Yeah.
globe, and you have to go there and
That'd
find
be
waves there or something.
great.
Probably gonna be Kansas though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Odds
As
are.
long as it's a coast. Yeah.
And
Odds are. Actually, Texas, right? It's all
Just land on Hawaii. Oh gosh, I gotta go to Hawaii.
Oh my god. I know.
I
Do
heard
you
this
still ever
surf
do?
there.
Do you do tropical stuff, or are you just solely?
I
Committed.
do. I have. I mean, I love surfing warm water personally. Actually, so Mark, who is a part of Island X, I met him on a surf trip to Costa Rica.
Nice.
That was like a travel tourism job, and we got awesome waves. But we're like, this is so weird. We're two like cold water surf guys, and we meet in Costa Rica,
Yeah.
of all places. You
Like,
know?
don't tell anyone.
Shit.
Yeah,
I won't say anything if you
Yeah.
don't.
That's awesome.
yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
Well, it's a cool life that you live. It's crazy that it like worked out the way it did, and
Yeah.
so you're gonna continue to do so all this stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the dream is just building on this and like evolving it further and telling more stories and
Yeah.
getting more creative with it.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you
yeah.
built like a full studio out, right?
Yeah, in Oceanside.
Yeah.
So
It looks sick. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, you guys got to come by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
It's you and one other guy doing it?
yeah, my buddy Brian Davis,
Brian, yeah.
Bobcat Davis, like we've been working together. We've been friends for like 8+ years and worked together off and on film stuff. And then we've started Fielder Films, which is like our collaboration on films. And we do almost all of our projects together and just kind of like mind meld on those. So
Is his nickname Bobcat?
yeah,
I love
That's the
Bobcat
sickest
Davis.
nickname.
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So we just met at a coffee shop in Oceanside, and a buddy introduced us, and he's like, "Dude, you got to meet Brian. Like, he loves filmmaking. Like, I think you guys would hit it off." And so we just started doing stuff together, and then eventually it was like everything we were doing it together. So
Wow.
Just you
Yeah.
and Bobcat
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been super
ruling
fun.
the world.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's awesome.
yeah, and I think originally I was just doing a lot of stuff on my own, and the idea of having a friend, like I'm sure you guys can relate to this, but like having a friend to work on creative projects with changes everything for me. Like somebody you can just like bounce ideas off of and like almost have this like sandbox experience where you're just like not only talking to clients or people that you're like sending deliverables to, but like, hey, let's just talk about the creative side of this and see like what
Yeah.
we can come up with. And so it's been super fulfilling.
For sure. I
Yeah.
can't imagine not having another person.
Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah.
crazy. You'd have to be so certain in your creative juices. you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're like, is this cool?
Yeah, like am I
I don't
going
know.
crazy?
Like,
Like, what am I doing
yeah.
here? So
Exactly. That sounds
yeah.
terrifying, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know how
So it's
people
been
do
a lot
that.
of fun. Yeah.
That's cool.
What do you have coming up next? Do you have like a lot of like
yeah.
corporate filming or
We
what?
do.
Yeah?
Yeah. So I mean, we're still working on Island X. Like I'm finding, like we've put in 3+ years to make this film, but once you release it, like that's actually when the work starts of like promoting it to the rest of the world. Because it's easy to feel like the project's done on our end, but people still don't know about it. And so we're still like touring it, doing events, promoting it. And there's like a lot that goes into that. And then we have commercial jobs that we're doing through the end of the year for various brands. And then I'm kind of starting to think of like, all right, like what would be the next creative endeavor? Like maybe end of next year, start to work on that and dream something up. So yeah.
Very cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see what it is.
Yeah.
Ireland.
Ireland.
No,
I'm looking
Ireland.
at the
Well,
map right now, and I want to see a Hudson Bay film, dude.
I know. There's polar bears up there.
Is there?
It's really gnarly. Yeah. So there is surf up there.
Yeah, I bet.
Do you know every cold water surf spot at this point?
Yeah, he knows every single one.
Everyone. Yeah. They're all.
Google Earth it all.
But like, if you can surf the
So yeah,
Great Lakes.
people go up there. The thing is, it's like very shallow, that body of water, and so ice is over quickly. And when there's ice, you don't really get swell.
Okay.
And there's like a lot of polar bears. So like people that go up there in the winter are like in these vans that are like with bars on the windows because like the polar bears will come up.
Rip them open.
Yeah.
Eat them alive.
Yeah.
That's super.
But
That's
there is
really
surf.
cool.
Like there's wind swell up there, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like, how bad do you want it? Like, dude, like
That's
some
a
of these
question for
places,
you.
like, yeah, like some of these places in like northern and eastern Canada, it's like, I've looked into it. You literally have to have a guy with a gun or like multiple guns on hand at all times,
sounds
just to
pretty
like
sick.
protect the camp, and like
That sounds like Jurassic Park.
and a
actually.
bear
pretty
fence, like an electric fence that you put around your
wow.
campsite.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
We actually, in Kamchatka, Russia, we had a bear fence because there's like grizzlies out there.
And you're just in your tent. There's the bear.
Yeah,
fence around it.
yeah. And it's just like a little wire that like goes around the perimeter. of
That's
your
all you
campsite.
need?
Yeah.
That feels terrifying.
Yeah.
It's like, I hope it
I
doesn't
know.
crawl under that thing.
Right.
The wire's on
Jump
the
it.
floor. It's like hung up.
Yeah, it's like an inch off the ground like this, and
Yeah.
it's
Just
like a
jump
trip
it?
wire.
Can't they just jump it?
Interesting.
I don't know.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Put it a little higher, I feel like. You
Yeah,
know?
and then the
where they can't
Russian-
go into it, but they can't really jump it.
Yeah,
Well,
and then the Russians have like shotguns and stuff.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
There's also the whole thing of like
Molotov
putting a
cocktails.
rope around your camp for like snakes and animals like that, but they could easily just crawl over it, but they don't.
What?
Yeah.
Put a rope down?
Weird.
Put a rope in a circle around your camp.
Jeez.
Right?
Like
way.
You ever
putting-
heard of that?
I've never heard of that.
Oh.
putting salt in a circle. So
It's witches. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Maybe that's not a real
Wow.
thing.
I don't know.
Garlic bulbs.
yeah.
I don't know about that.
That one's real.
Oh, cinnamon for ants.
Really?
Use cinnamon.
Yeah. And
You ever-
salt for slugs.
Wow.
That-
and
You never heard that one? Yeah, they pop. They blow up. It's kind of fucked up.
SpongeBob drew a circle around himself.
That's cargo.
Yeah.
Did he?
For the bear pig thing. Yeah.
Bear pig thing?
I know
Like
what you're
camping.
talking about.
Yeah.
I know the reference.
Ah.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna mess up the name on this one, but Kamchatka.
Kamchatka.
Yeah.
Why are you smiling? Just
Say it.
So immature,
say
dude.
it. You were smiling.
Yeah, that film was. Wait, that was the one with Dane, right?
Yeah.
That one was so sick.
Yeah, that
And
was
a
cool.
lot of people, when actually Dane came in, they were like people that worked here were like, dude, that film like changed my life. It was so
Really?
sick.
Yeah.
Like ask him about it. So now I'm asking you about it.
Yeah.
Because you were there and you filmed it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. It seemed like such a beautiful trip.
That was crazy. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it was like. It felt magical just to be there, and
Yeah.
that place is really like mystical to me. I mean, you have like these huge pyramid-shaped volcanoes, and then there's like a lush forest and
Yeah.
Russian culture like on the beach.
A lot of drinking, right?
Yeah,
That's what Dane was
yeah.
saying.
And I like in my mind's eye, I kind of pictured it as being this like Alaska experience. But then when we got there, it's like there's tons of people right on the beach there, like shooting guns and drinking vodka and stuff.
Fuck
and it was
yeah.
like the exact
What?
opposite of.
Wow, it's like spring break in Russia.
it was, yeah.
Summer break.
It was a trip. And
Wow.
like, people were so friendly. Like it was awesome. Like the food was great, and
Goulash or what are they eating over there?
yeah, a lot of soups,
Soup,
goulash.
meat.
Yeah,
So everyone was nice to you guys?
yeah.
That's cool.
They're rad. It was super cool.
Cool.
And then we got to explore around, like saw some huge bear footprints next to our campsite one night, and then there's like salmon going up the rivers. So like
Jeez.
Foster was actually on that trip. He had like a bow and arrow that he used to shoot a salmon out of the water.
What?
Whoa.
It was crazy. Yeah, he just like had a string attached to the arrow, shot it, and just like pulled it out of the water.
What the heck?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
That's badass.
That's crazy. So, and we got some waves. Like, it's definitely hard to get waves there, but it was like fun surf, you know.
That's
so,
cool.
yeah, that was fun. And then the crew is so rad. Like, we were all just like camping for 2 weeks on the beach.
Yeah.
So.
Do a lot of Russians surf?
At the time, there was like a few locals that were
Yeah.
surfing, and they had actually met Tom Curran because Tom had done that same trip like maybe 10 years prior and met a few kids on that one and like left surfboards. And when we got there,
Wow.
there was like a little crew of them on that beach surfing, and then we ended up booking a helicopter to go to this like super remote wave that was like way further north. I'd spotted this like little river mouth gravel bar in this bay that was like super secluded, and you could see a little left peeling in on Google Earth, and we landed there, and it was like waterfalls dumping into this bay, like super scenic, salmon going up the creek,
Damn.
and like a knee-high little left. It wasn't really surfable, but like I've always wanted to go back to that spot. So there's definitely potential, but there's not a lot of infrastructure. It's really hard to get around. So yeah.
That's cool that you went and searched it and found that spot. It's too bad it wasn't breaking really well.
I know.
Yeah, I know how that is. Just like pull up to a spot and you're like, oh, this would be so
Like
good.
so much work
Yeah.
went into getting here. Yeah. So
Dang.
that was crazy. Yeah. And then I think that was actually like a lesson in storytelling too, because even though that wave didn't turn out to be like working when we were there, it was still like a cool part of the story and part of the adventure, and it kind of opened my mind to like the story of adventure more so than just like trying to score surf.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, I was like just so into surfing and like getting good waves, and over time I've just come to appreciate more of like the story side of it even more so.
Yeah.
And that trip, like, yeah, that trip really changed my perspective.
I feel like that's all we've done is we usually don't store because it's trying to wrangle that many people. Like you have one weekend, you know, you film it and you're like, surf was not that good.
Yeah.
We've never committed like 10 days to a surf trip either.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
probably is what you really need. Is time.
Yeah, and a lot of times even that's not enough, you know, you just don't know. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
gnarly.
that makes total sense.
One
We can
day.
get better at it.
One day.
Or
we'll
learn it.
line up.
Yeah.
Or we just do claymation forever. Just
But,
pay for it.
Yeah,
Just pay for it.
it's weird though, because I feel that way in Oceanside. Like I've lived there for so many years, and I still don't really understand when it gets good or why certain days are good or not. And I've like spent so much time trying to get waves in these other places, but even like at home, I don't fully get it. So
That's
Yeah.
It's a crazy science, really.
yeah,
I definitely try to dive into like cataloging swell directions and like, you know, all that shit. And
Yeah.
Still just like, I don't know. It might be good tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, it's
yeah,
it's interesting how it's never really the same, even though it's supposed to be.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I imagine like, what if you showed up for 10 days in Oceanside randomly at some point in the year? Like, what's your chances of getting waves?
Right.
Like even there,
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
interesting.
like you don't know.
Yeah.
Like, normally it's like,
I don't know.
oh, it's 3 to 4 tomorrow. Like,
Right.
sick.
Yeah.
I just go off the
Yeah.
color. I'm like, it's orange.
Yeah.
They dumb it down pretty good nowadays, you know?
Yeah.
And the camera. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
color coded for me.
Well, thanks for coming in,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate you. Yeah.
Yeah, super fun.
Stoked. I gotta watch that movie, Island X, out
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
On Amazon Prime.
Great
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Great
guys.
film, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for coming.
Thank you.
There we go.